Jake and Mon, talking Bengals, making fans fun. Heartbeats racing, excitement high. No one can stop us, reach for the sky. Who's they gonna beat them? Nobody, nobody. Bengals Pulse, pumping strong. Our passion for football can't be wrong. Thanks unite us, beating as one. In the 60 jungle, we have fun.
Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Mon. He is Eric. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. Gentlemen, this time next week, we are going to be celebrating a 1-0 start to the Cincinnati Bengals season. It's going to be very exciting. We are 1 week away. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Hooday to all of you guys. We love you. Again, we appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. As you can see, my background has changed a little bit. I am on a little staycation with the fam over the holiday weekend. Guys, we are a week away, and we are here tonight to preview the upcoming season. We're going to talk about some stats, some Mon record predictions. Please, guys, in the comment section, make sure you comment. Let us know what your record predictions are. Let us know what your stat predictions are. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. Hopefully, we are going to be breaking some news here in the next 30 to 40 minutes. We'll see what happens.
Our favorite impersonator.
Mon, how's your week been, buddy?
Good, man. It was fun to watch college football yesterday, even though my team lost. Had to go to a family funeral today. A relative of ours passed away, and that's always a bummer. But I'm excited about football season coming up. 1 week from today, we're going to be 1-0.
That's right.
1 week from now, we're going to be 1-0 and start off a great championship run for the Bengals. And I can't wait to talk about it. Let's do this.
Let's do this, Mon. Sorry about your loss. Eric, how you been, bud? You been good?
I'm good.
I'm liking the Yoshi. I see the Yoshi jersey back there. I'm liking it.
I mean, you should have watched Thursday's show. I know you're a little busy and all, but debuted the Yoshi jersey. It's going to make its way up to the stadium for the Orange Out. Planning the road trip, the excitement that comes along with that, getting the snacks for the kids in the car, planning our trip to Midwest Best. Yeah, it can't come fast enough. Thankfully, we have a holiday tomorrow, so we get one more day to rest and to only think about Bengals all day long. So the kind of twisting where it hurts there because we're getting impatient. But we have spent most of the day working on some of our items for the show tonight. I think it's going to be a good show. For those that didn't get to hear what we're planning, we're basically 1 week away. We're going to talk about the season, what we expect out of this season, what we predict, what we hope to see. This is the one show a year that we're going to absolutely be positive and talk about what we want to see, not what we're worried about. This is our prediction show.
No talking about the O-line and D-line depth tonight, Mon. Do you hear that? No talking about O-line and D-line depth.
Well, before we start, I want to get something off my chest. No, I'm joking.
Oh boy, here we go.
Eric, listen, before we get into it, I did mention something on the last episode about the Bengal bar in Atlanta that is full of Bengal fans. It's called the Hudson Grill, and it's going to be at a special location in North Atlanta, the Sandy Springs location of the Hudson Grill. So the weekend of the Eagles game, I'm going to be at that bar, and if you guys are Bengal fans, you fan of the Pulse, come on down, and I'm going to do the show afterwards from there.
We need to get a hold of them. Have your son get a hold of them. Let's put something together like we did down here and plug it for a couple weeks and get as many Bengals fans there as possible.
I like
Absolutely.
it. I like the
Absolutely.
idea.
Yeah. You guys will be leaving the game, and we can just talk about it right there, and it'll be a fun episode. It'll be a fun episode.
I mean, Atlanta is sometimes on our way home. We could just pick you up if you want. That's about 8 hours away.
No, it's a big. We got a big family function that weekend, so I think it would be a lot of trouble if I left.
There was no invite there, Jake. Jake, you didn't invite us.
No, we did not get invited. No, we did not get invited to
I'll work
It's
on
okay.
it. I'll work on it.
It's okay.
that.
So
All right.
let's
Go ahead.
get right into it.
Let's go.
We're gonna give our predictions. Mon and Jake sent these to me this weekend. They don't know what each other predicted, so we're gonna get right into it and let you guys know. Let you guys chime in in the chat, and we'll throw some stuff on Twitter later. So we're gonna start with Joe Burrow. What I have up on the screen is for most of these, I've got last year's stats. Since Joe didn't have a full year, I went back to 2022, his last full year. Joe Burrow threw for 4,475 yards, 35 TDs, had 12 interceptions, and was sacked 41 times. With that, we're going to get into Jake and Mon's predictions. Let me see who comes up first. Okay, we got Mon's predictions first. So, Mon, your predictions are on the screen. Why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners what those numbers are and why you think those are going to come out that way.
Well, I didn't add this. I think Joe's going to play every game this year. He's not going to miss any game. I think our backup quarterback will come in and mop up rolls and have a few attempts. I have Joe throwing for 4,300 yards, a little less than the 2022 season. I have 37 TDs, 12 interceptions, and 40 sacks. I think the offensive line is going to be better. I think the tackle spot is solid. Interior offensive line. Our starters are fine. It's the best offensive line he's had in years. But, he likes to hold on to the ball. And I think Joe's still going to get sacked some. I will say this. I think the offense is going to be different. I don't see as much yardage. I see a lot more passes to running backs and tight ends. I think they will run the ball more. I think that's where you're going to see the big difference in this offense. They ran the ball for 1,500 yards, a little more than that last year. I expect that to spike this year. I expect about 1,800, 1,900 yards rushing the ball. And even with the 4,300 that I have for Joe Burrow, that's about 252 yards a game. That's not bad. There might be some games he throws for 200 that he could have a couple of 350, maybe a 400-yard game. But he's going to have a solid all-around season. He's going to play the whole year. And I think those stats are going to go a long way to having a successful season.
And Jake,
All right.
what are you? Give us yours.
All right, let me give you mine, and let me say, Josh, thanks for joining us. I know you're all the way out across the pond there, so we appreciate you joining us. And let me just say, it's got to be better than the Reds because pretty much anything the Bengals do is going to be better than the Reds' choke job this year. And David Bell, don't get me started on David Bell. All right, here we go. We said we're not going to be negative. I'm not going to be negative. 24 predictions for me. 24 predictions for me. I think this is going to be Joe Burrow's best year. I think we're going to be talking about Joe Burrow in the MVP race when the season ends. I think he'll be in the top 3 when it comes to that MVP race. Again, I see the touchdown production going way up. I think again, this all depends on health, but I think this Bengals offense with the offensive line that they have, if everybody stays healthy, it's going to be the best offense in the NFL. I really do believe that, especially through the air. We have not seen Joe Burrow in an offense where he has time to go through his progression. I think he's going to be deadly if that is the case. I gave him 4,500 yards plus. I think 50 touchdowns plus. I think this is going to be his best interception ratio in his career. And I think the sacks are going to go way down. I think this offense is different. I think they're going to ask Joe to get the ball out of his hands quicker. And I think this offensive line is going to be a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. So I see the sacks going way down too. I think, again, what do I have here? I have 8 to 10 interceptions, sacks 15 to 20, and touchdowns, like I said, 50 plus. I think this is going to be a record-breaking year for Joe Burrow. And I think if everybody stays healthy, this is going to be the top offense in the NFL, or at least top 3 offense in the NFL. I think running the ball, I think, we can this is a running back by committee offense. We're not going to have 1,000-yard rusher like we had with Joe Mixon. I think the Bengals are going to use both guys accordingly. I think that we're going to see a lot of receptions out of the backfield from both guys. But I think overall, I could see this offense being, 5,500 to 5,800 yards total. I think it's going to be a record-breaking year, especially if this offensive line stays healthy.
I like it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think 15 to 20 is optimistic. I agree with Yash on that, and I hope you're right, Jake. It's just that playing in the AFC North, three of the best pass rushers in the North are here. Myles Garrett, you got Watt and Matabuke from the Ravens. 15 to 20. I hope it happens. I think Joe's going to play, the whole season, but I think 40 sacks. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a little less than that, but 15 to 20 would be something.
Well, I think, Mon, I think when you look, the Bengals know that they have three of the top pass rushers in the NFL. That's why they've upgraded that tackle position on both sides of the offensive line. And I do think we're going to see a lot more from under center. I think we're going to see a lot more play action. I think we're going to see a lot more misdirection from this Bengals offense. So, again, I think all of those things will help with the sack totals going down, especially if the Bengals are able to run the ball, I'm going to say at least efficiently, which we haven't seen in a while. So if the Bengals can run the ball efficiently, I think we see those sack numbers splitting in half. I think the Bengals are tired of it, of hearing about Joe Burrow getting sacked all the time. And I think Joe Burrow, when we hear him talk about that, he knows he holds on to the ball a little bit too long. He's talked about those kind of things. I think you're going to see a different Joe Burrow with Dan Pitcher and with this new offensive line.
One other thing I want to add, and where the offense has to change. I think it was Joe Goodberry. Somebody tweeted this. Joe Burrow was on pace to have over 700 pass attempts last year. And when you pass the ball that much, your sack numbers go up. And if they do not, the Bengals will never be a run-first team. I get that. No team in the NFL is. Maybe two or three. The Cincinnati Bengals definitely won't be. But if that's a trend, that's a losing formula, especially a quarterback that's coming off an injury. If they do not run the ball more efficiently, I'm not saying more attempts. Guys, we're not going to get where we want to be. So I'm not being negative. They got to run the ball. They got to run the ball some. So that right there in itself could lower the sack numbers. It really could. So, 15-20 could happen, Jake, if we run the ball well.
I agree. I just see this, Mon. I really do. And I know I've been called a homer a couple times here and there. I just think that if Joe Burrow stays healthy, I think this is going to be a record-breaking year. And I really do believe he's going to be in the MVP race. I really do believe that. I think if this offensive line plays as well as we think it will, the sky is the limit with Joe Burrow in this offense. They are loaded.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just one last thing on it, Joe probably takes 10 to 15 sacks a year just trying to extend a play on third down. He's admitted to holding on to the ball too long sometimes. I think with this last year's injury, he's probably going to do that less. I do think that we're in the 30 sack range, but it could go drastically down, or he could get 10 to 15 just from his scrambling. That part of him is probably never going to change. I hope that doesn't change, because that's when you hold on to it because you got to make a play or it's time to punt. So with that, let's move on to Jamar Chase.
Let me say this real quick too. Remember, this is the first healthy offseason that Joe Burrow has had. His mobility is going to be better than what we've seen in the past. So I think that needs to be taken into account as well. But yes, let's move on to Jamar.
And not just that, he didn't hurt his legs, so he was able to work out squats, lunges, do all his mobility work. That's why he gained so much muscle. So yeah, that is definitely going to help his mobility. So Jamar Chase, 2023 season stats: he had 100 catches, 1,216 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Let's get to our 24 predictions. I've got Jake going first. Go ahead and tell us about your predictions, Jake.
I will. I see Mon laughing. Mon, this is no laughing matter. Again, if I have Joe Burrow throwing for 50-plus touchdowns, Jamar Chase is going to get a lot of touchdowns this year. Listen, again, this is this is something that we've talked about in the past, and that is Joe Burrow just not having time in the pocket. Joe Burrow, if he gets time in the pocket, we have seen what he is capable of. I think, again, just like this is going to be a Joe Burrow MVP year, I think Jamar Chase goes crazy this year. I think this is going to be – I think Jamar is tired about even hearing about Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson even being in the conversation as far as best receivers go. I think Jamar Chase is going to have his best year as well. 100 catches, I think that's easy. I think that's a no-brainer that he has 100 catches plus. The 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns. Again, I think the Bengals are going to get the ball to him more than what we've seen in the past. And again, I just think he has a big year. I have him for 1,800 yards receiving and 18 touchdowns. I think that is very realistic if this offense is going to be as good as I think it will be. Mon.
Hey, I hope it happens. That would be really, really an unbelievable dominant season. I just think there's so many unbelievable talented skill players on this team. I just don't see stats that gaudy to one person. I just think that ball has to be shared. He is the number one, like his jersey, option. But teams know that, and I think teams will try to slow him down some. It won't be successful. So I can see other players on the team getting some nice stats. It's good having him. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he is the second best player on the team, but I'll take those stats.
I mean, that is what is that like? I'm not a math person. What is that? 80 or 90 yards a game in a 17-game season? That's very realistic for this offense. It's very realistic for Jamar Chase.
Well, Ron, why don't you tell the audio listeners what you got for stats there?
Well, I just have 88 catches. I have about 1,300 yards, 11 TDs. He's going to have a steady season. He's going to have a good season. He gets nicked up. He might miss a game or two here, but the problem is teams know how good he is. They know how good T. Higgins is. You can't stop him. They want to slow him down. I expect some of those numbers that Jake has, I expect those to go to Yoshi. I expect them to go to Gesicki. I expect them to go to, Eric All. I expect other people, Zach Moss out of the backfield. I expect Irwin to catch some balls. There's other good players that are going to feast because teams are going to be focused on Chase and Higgins. So I expect our offense to be really good. And I think that's what I feel very comfortable with that stat line for Chase. I'd be happy with it.
Well, we want to thank Odessa for the super chat. Thank you very much, Odessa, for that. We very much appreciate that. And we're going to be talking about T. Higgins here very, very shortly.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Eric.
Just an update for those that are wondering. It doesn't seem like Jamar Chase deal is going to get announced tonight because he's streaming right now on Twitch or whatever that gaming platform is. So doesn't look like he's in Paycor Stadium right now. So just might have to wait till Monday.
Listen, he was already there, boys.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be it's coming. I'm telling you, he was already there. Quick, let me say one more thing about Jamar, and then we'll move on. I don't disagree with you, Mon. I think that the wealth will be spread. There's so many weapons on this team. I don't know how you just can't take away anybody. I mean, you take away somebody, and we got 4 other people. If Joe Burrow has time, he is going to carve up the entire NFL. And Jamar Chase is one of the best receivers in the NFL. We've seen these other number 1 receivers have crazy years like this. It's not unheard of. I think this is going to be Jamar Chase's year.
That's fair. I just feel we have Gesicki. I think Gesicki's going to have more. He's going to have 50. He could have 50, 60 catches as a tight end. We've never had a tight end like him. He's a big wide receiver. And I know we want to be positive tonight, but let's talk about our second game of the season. No, Spagnuolo, he has a formula. I mean, the last couple times they played the Bengals, his philosophy is somebody else has to beat me. It's not going to be Chase. It's not going to be Higgins. They're not going to beat us. And I think if Yoshi comes in and does what he can do, if Burton, if Gesicki, guess what? That'll probably free up Higgins and Chase. Maybe they could get more stats, more than I predicted, because hey, Spagnuolo and these other defensive coordinators are going to realize, guys, I can't have two people covering number one because I got to worry about 80 over the middle. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It's a good problem to have, right, guys? It's a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want to hear anything about Jamar not practicing. Let me tell you, Jamar Chase right now is in football shape. He is not the type of player to be sitting around. The guy has been working out. That is going to have no relevance at all on how he starts the season or where his season begins. Jamar Chase will come out and it will be guns blazing. Trust me.
Yeah,
that has nothing to do with anything.
And when you have these athletic superstars, these freaks of nature, I mean, they're always in shape. You know, you see Chad Johnson ate McDonald's and still eating McDonald's, and the man is still fast as lightning. I'm not too worried about it. And that plus the fact that we have the depth at wide receiver, that he doesn't have to go out there and get 20 catches in game one. I think game shape isn't going to be something to worry about because we have the time to ease him in and he's still going to get his stats. So let's put this comment up from Odessa, and thanks, Odessa, as we transition here. He says that 2024 will be a career year for T. Higgins, and he's going to make so much money after this year. I'm still going to stay on record that I think it's going to be in Cincinnati unless we trade him, because we're going to franchise him and pay him that $27 million. So let's get to our T. Higgins.
Let's get to T.
Here T had 42 catches, 656 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And I probably should have gone to his 2022 stats because he was injured last year, and that kind of played some into it.
Yes.
But let's get to y'all's predictions, and I think Jake's up first again. Jake, why don't you tell our audio listeners what you have predicted?
Absolutely. I listen. T. Higgins is going to be making some money this year, boys. He is going to be making some money. It's going to be with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm telling you now, whether they franchise tag him again or whether they sign him to a long-term deal, this guy is going to be making some money this year. I have him with 70-plus catches, 1,200 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Again, I think we just have to consider the facts. And the facts are that the Bengals offensive line, I'm not being negative, but the Bengals offensive line has been atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. This offensive line this year, if it plays as well as we think it will, we have not seen Joe Burrow yet have a consistent amount of time in a pocket. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are about to take over this league. If Joe Burrow gets that type of time, T. Higgins is a number one receiver in this league. He is a top 10 receiver. The Bengals have 2 of them. You can't take them both away, Spagnuolo. You've already learned that. We've whooped your ass every time we played you. It ain't happening, Spags. It ain't happening. You're not taking both these guys out of the game. These guys are going to go off this year, and T. Higgins is about to make a lot of money.
Yeah, Mom, what do you got predicted for him? Yep.
There we are right there. I have 74 catches, about 950 yards, 8 TDs. I mean, Jake, you literally have 3,000 yards going to 2 wide receivers. And
listen, when you
Jake,
spend
the Bengals have
$60 million on 2 receivers, when you spend $60 million on 2 receivers, they better have 3,000 yards.
Well, I hear what you're saying. That's a good point. They have so many talented weapons. And I think teams are gonna, try to slow the big 2 down. It's not going to be successful. They're studs, but it's supposed to be the positive episode. Let's face it. They haven't played 17 games. They missed 1, 2, 3 games. It happens.
Yes, they have.
But they're difference makers. They're difference makers. Yeah. They're elite.
This is all on health, man. I'm going on. Listen, positive thoughts. I'm going on a healthy season, but you are right. They each have missed some games every year. They've been consistent with that.
Just imagine if we get Joe, T, and Jamar playing all 16 games, because they'll probably rest that 17. we have the luxury of having a 1 wide receiver and a 1A wide receiver. When Jamar's out, T has balled out. When T's been out, Jamar's had the ball out. If we have them on the field for every game, my prediction that you'll see later on will definitely come true. I'll hold that for later.
I agree. Well, listen, we're talking about that this group hasn't played a 17-game schedule collectively as a group yet. Healthy, I'm talking about health-wise. And again, that's what I'm going off of here. Let's say that all 3 of these guys are healthy the entire year, which I know that can be a long shot with these guys, but I'm just telling you guys, if it is, look out. This offense is going to be something like we've never seen before.
I think fans would be surprised. Chase and Higgins haven't really played a full game together. I mean, that many times. They really haven't. Remember the big 3 when Boyd was here. I think there's only a handful of times that all 3 played together a full game. So
I would be interested. Yeah, go ahead, Mon. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, if we could just, hopefully injury bug doesn't hit them. They don't get soft tissue injuries, anything like that. But if it did happen, we've got a very deep wide receiver room. But if those 2 play at the same time, it's going to be tough to cover them. Somebody mentioned something about Spagnuolo, and Monken's an offensive coordinator. He's not a defensive coordinator. Spagnuolo, you can say what you want about him. He did slow him down. I mean, what happened in that AFC championship game, the second one, we couldn't do anything because Boyd was injured, and he said, Chase and Higgins will not beat me. Somebody else has to. And guess what? Nobody else made a play. So we have more players now. We have a better roster now. So hopefully we'll find out week 2, because I can tell you he's going to try to do that again. That's where Yoshi and that's where those other guys were jumping ahead for the preview already. And that's where those guys need to jump in and take over.
In that game, Tyler Boyd went out too, and that's what's really missed because we needed that 3rd wide receiver to step up. I think having Yoshi and having Jermaine Burton is going to take that out. If they can't take him out of the game because then they have that 3rd person that they have to cover. Yash did ask earlier if we did our predictions based on 16 or 17 games. I think we kind of all assume it's just 16 games. We're going off of previous stats. With the records that are predicted, I think most people think they're resting in that 17th game. But let me know if I'm wrong. Yes, no.
No, yeah. I mean, again, you're going to see my prediction. This team is going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC if they stay healthy. So for me, yes, I'm going off of a 17-game schedule if they were to play 17 games, but I only believe they will be playing 16 because I think this team will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Mon.
Okay. I'm going to stick with my prediction from early in the season when the schedule came out. I think they'll be vying for the number 1 seed. Are we going to give? I mean, I picked 12-5, and I'm sticking with that. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's
you just spoiled our later stat. But
Mon, you just spoiled it, Mon.
Do you think that this is on that? Do you think that the starters are playing Week 17?
Oh no, absolutely not.
No. Even though they're trying to get a number 1 seed, then they'd have to play.
I think their seed will already be determined, and they're going to say, "Why risk any of our players? We can't get any higher than this, or we already have the first round bye locked up." So okay. I think Week 17. I think it's
Week 18.
One of those situations
because we got a bye.
Week 8.
Week 18.
Yeah, I think that we'll know good in hand. If the Bengals are locked in at the 2nd seed, why should you play your guys? For example,
and just for you, Mon, Bruce B said he was talking about Monken. He was worried about Monken because of Derrick Henry. He was worried about Monken I think what he was trying to say is he's more concerned about our defense than he is the offense. So that's why he's concerned about Monken more than Spags, which
fair.
That is fair. But let me tell you, I'm not worried about a 30-year-old plus running back at all.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Our guy on the defensive side of the ball. Eric, set us up.
Moving on. We're looking at Trey Hendrickson. In 2023, he had 25 tackles and 17 and a half sacks. What do you guys think he can do this year?
Now, and again,
you're up first. Mon's up first.
Okay.
I think he's going to be very productive. He'll have double-digit sacks. I think he'll get 15 this year. I think teams. I mean, he did that literally. He was a one-man machine last year. He didn't really have a consistent threat on the other side to take pressure off of him. I think teams are going to chip him. I think teams are going to really focus on him. He's still going to get 15 sacks. It's up to the other guys. Miles Murphy's going to get healthy. Joseph Osai finally needs to step up. We need this team to help him. We need interior pressure from Rankins. I'm going to call it right now. I think the Cincinnati Bengals get 52 to 58 sacks this year, which would be near the tops in the NFL. I think they're going to get between 52 and 58 team sacks.
I love it. I agree, Mon. I agree 100%. I have on here. Listen, again, I think we have to look at the facts, and the facts are that this man got 17 and a half sacks with no help, no interior pressure, a banged up Sam Hubbard, a defense on the back end that was absolutely atrocious, no communication, so many problems on the back end of this defense. And now you have corrected that. You have corrected the communication part of the back end of this defense, which, Mon, that translates so much to the front end, to that front seven. If that back end is doing what they're supposed to be doing, there's more coverage sacks. If that front end is doing what it's doing, especially in the interior, I think the addition of Sheldon Rankins and that interior pressure that he brings and a healthy Sam Hubbard, I think Trey Hendrickson has his career year this year. I really do believe it. I think that, again, I'm concerned about the depth on the defensive line. We've talked about that already. But I think the addition of Sheldon Rankin, again, Trey Hendrickson got 17 and a half sacks on his own. He had no help. He had no help from B.J. Hill, D.J. Reader, Sam Hubbard, all those guys that we've talked about. We've had no interior pressure at all last year. Sheldon Rankins is going to change that, and he is going to open up pass rushing lanes for Trey Hendrickson. The back end of this defense, Von Bell and Geno Stone are going to make a huge difference, and we're going to see a lot more coverage sacks from the Bengals. I agree with you. I think the Bengals are 50-plus sacks, and I think that is an easy statistic.
Real quick, I agree with what you said about the secondary. Last year, every Bengal fan, every fan of the Bengals Pulse saw it themselves. So many explosive plays against us, 20, 25-plus yards. I think the Bengals were probably tops in the NFL in explosive plays in the secondary. It's got to get better, and it will get better. But I just want to repeat something that a Hall of Fame coach said. His name is Bill Belichick. He says the way you beat a team is you neutralize their best players. Teams are going to try to do that with 91. He still found a way. That's how good he is to get 17 and a half sacks last year. He really didn't have a consistent threat. He had some players that flashed, that did help out, but he's so darn good, he still got his sacks. Guys, we need other players on that line to step up. We need Rankins to give us 5 to 8 sacks. I need Hubbard to come back healthy, give us 7 to 8 sacks. Yes. I need Miles Murphy to give us 5, 6, 7 sacks. He's going to miss the first 4 games. The gentleman we just picked up from the Commanders,
KJ Henry.
KJ Henry. He gives us 3 or 4 in spot duty. That's all it takes. You know, Mike Hilton, the secondary, come up with 5 or 6 sacks. Yash mentioned it perfectly. If you average 3 a game, that's going to put you near the top. It's going to give you 51 sacks in a season.
Yeah.
All right. So let's team effort. We got a stud, and we have about 4 other really good guys. We have a couple. We have Miles Murphy, who could, obviously turn into a stud. I think Osai could give us 5, 6 sacks. The defensive line, if we have consistent pass rush, it helps our secondary. Our secondary is better because we have a better roster. We have young players that have another year of experience. We have 2 good linebackers that can play like they did 2 years ago. I think the defense is going to be fine. I think they're going to have a rotational piece in that defensive tackle that's going to keep those guys fresh. It's going to help out in the run game. The defense, I'm not that worried about this year. I'm more worried about other things, but we can't talk about worrisome stuff tonight.
Well, listen, I think we do. I think we need to look at this too. I think we need to remember those last 2 preseason games. The Bears had all their starters in. They're trying to win a preseason championship. The Colts had all their starters in. They're trying to win I guess they're trying to play the Bears in the preseason Super Bowl because that's the only Super Bowl those two teams are ever going to see. They are playing their starters through the entire first half, both of those teams. And our second and third string defense shut them both down. I mean, guys, the depth on this defense is pretty damn good. You got a couple guys on that interior of the defensive line I'm a little concerned about. But for the most part, this defense is going to – I agree with you, Mon. This defense is going to play a lot better this year. We saw it in the preseason. And again, maybe the Bears and the Colts are just that bad on offense. They do have two quarterbacks that are unproven. But I like what I saw with the second and third string defense from the Bengals those last two preseason games. I think the depth's going to be a lot better on defense. I'm just hoping some of those rookies can step up on the defensive line.
And I want to just answer this from Ben about Sam Hubbard not being a pass rusher. Sam Hubbard's not known as a pass rusher, but what we missed from him last year, he was injured. So he didn't have that drive. He didn't have that push. What Sam Hubbard brings is that guy that he's giving pressure on the opposite side of Trey. The quarterback can no longer go where Sam Hubbard is. So now he's basically pushing him into Trey. So just having a healthy Sam Hubbard is going to push them over to Trey. And, Sam's going to get his sacks and he's going to influence more because they're going to have to roll to Trey's side. So I think that he does help. The other thing, to Jake's point, playing against those preseason teams, it's their preseason Super Bowl. We do have a much easier schedule this year, and we are playing a lot of first-time quarterbacks. We got Jacoby Brissett the first week. He's not first-time quarterback, but he's not a starter in this league. We're playing a lot of first-time coaches, so they're going to be coming after us. But our defense is going to be sometimes it's going to look like we're playing a preseason game out there, and I think that's going to make them a top 10 defense.
And I think divisionally too, you have to look at the division. The Ravens' offensive line is it's going to be terrible. I mean, the Steelers' offensive line is not going to be very good. I mean, both of those teams lost a lot up front. They are going to struggle on that offensive line. And the Cleveland Browns have Deshaun Watson healthy, which is a great thing for everybody else. So I think divisionally too, the Bengals, the concern that we have had is how good, the Steelers' offensive line has been in the past, how good the Ravens' offensive line. Those two offensive lines they're not going to be good like we're used to seeing. And I think it's going to help this Bengals defense get to the quarterback a lot easier.
Yeah, they're replacing three starters. They're going to struggle at first, but they'll get they'll figure it out. Thing about the Ravens is this: they've been a consistent, good rushing team. They will be with that quarterback. They're going to get their rush yards. It's our deep. Listen, the AFC North and our schedule. Eric, you mentioned the schedule situation. I know on paper it doesn't look that formidable, but you never know. These things can change. Week 16, we could say, "Hey, man, 3 of those teams are in the playoffs that nobody expected them to be." Yeah. It happens all the time. We just gotta play 1 week at a time. And you are right. Looking at it right now, not knowing how these other teams are, if the Cincinnati Bengals aren't 5-2 or 6-1 potentially first 7 games, I'm going to be concerned because there's some very winnable games. This Bengals roster is so good. It is a very, very good roster. We have the veteran presence that we didn't have last year in that secondary. Yeah. Guys, that screwed up our whole defense. It screwed everything up. I mean, we have talked about it 5 million times. Pratt and Logan Wilson they weren't the same players because they were trying to make up for that. And they don't have to do that anymore. So guess what? Two of our best players are going to be playing like they were 2 years ago. Yeah. Von Bell, Geno Stone. I think our defense is going to be fine. There's absolutely no excuse for this team not to have a 5-1 start to the season.
And I agree, Aaron. I agree with Aaron Butler. The Ravens are going to choke. They're going to choke right off the bat. I really listen. This is a Ravens. This is a Ravens team, Aaron, and that's a really good comment by you. I know you being a Ravens fan, but I know you understand that the Ravens choked last year. They had the best roster in the NFL, guys, and couldn't get it done at home. That offense the Ravens have is not a good offense. It's not a good offense. And I agree with you, Aaron. I think they choke right off the bat. That's a good comment by you, Aaron.
Number one seed in the NFL. They played in a division that had 3 backup quarterbacks starting against them.
Good point.
All right. Their quarterback played the whole season. Top defense in football. Unbelievable running game. Number 1 seed throughout the playoffs, and you choked. Yep. It was gift wrap for you. It was gift wrap, Baltimore Ravens, to win it all, to be Super Bowl champions, and you lost. You choked. You're terrible. It didn't happen. You have
Lamar's
a quarterback.
Not that guy. Lamar's not
you
that
have
guy,
a quarterback
right?
that gets, he's an MVP. God bless him. Hey man, congratulations, MVP. What do you do in the playoffs? You're not an MVP.
Yeah,
it's certified facts.
Yep.
Congratulations on the MVP trophy, though. Great job.
All right, the window is closed. The window is closed. Aaron says again, he says he can't take it. His Ravens just choke when the pressure is on. I agree. It's just a pathetic organization up there in Baltimore. Go ahead.
Enough Ravens talk. Before we get to some of our last predictions here, if you're watching us on Twitter tonight, make sure to go over to YouTube and like and subscribe, leave a comment. That really helps more Bengals fans see us. We're going to get to our last prediction. Well, y'all's last prediction, and we're going to go on our record. 2023, the Bengals were 9-8. And give us your 2024 predictions. We'll see who pops up on the screen here first. Jake, you're first.
Yes. All right. I'm first. And let me say this real quick. This is not about the Ravens. This is not about the Ratbirds. Let me just say this. We're talking about sacks. The Bengals had 44 sacks last year, guys. And it was basically Trey Hendrickson getting half of those. So the sack numbers are going to go up. We've gotten a lot better on defense. 44 sacks last year on a defense that struggled for the most part. All right, here we go. So I have 14-3. And I think 14-3 is probably very realistic. I think the 14-3, 13-4. I think it does matter that last game. If the Bengals are sitting everybody because they have a number 1 seed, I think we could see 13-4. But 14-3, I think, is very realistic. I think 13 wins is the minimum. I think it's going to be 13 plus wins, and I really believe that. I think the Bengals might drop a divisional game. They struggle against the Cowboys. I think that's one of those trap games that I'm really not liking. And like I said, I mean, they're going to lose a divisional game. The division, it's tough. And I could see them that last game going into Pittsburgh, with Jake Browning and crew, and maybe the Steelers are playing for second place, which I think is realistic in where they are. So, 14-3 again. I just look at this schedule. The Bengals have not played. This is like looking at a Ravens schedule, guys. It's so easy. The Bengals have not played this kind of schedule in a very long time. And I think the Bengals very well could start off 6 or 7-0. It's very realistic for this team.
Mon, let's go with yours.
I'm trying to find a stat here because I was going to talk about the Ravens again. That I posted
Bengals
from Warren Sharp. Yeah, I get it. I have the Bengals going 12-5. Guys, listen, it's a long season. It's a grind. Every NFL team goes through a little bit of a lull. I expect the Bengals to have the same one. The NFL did no favors for them. I think they play 3 games in a 10-day period. It's really crazy.
That's
one of the
tough.
few teams that have to play a Thursday night. They have to literally play Sunday, Thursday in Baltimore again, and then they play the following week. It's just, I'm trying to find the Warren Sharp article about how the Ravens have the most favorable schedule when it comes to to travel time and time in between games. The NFL totally sets them up to succeed, but it doesn't matter. They choke in the playoffs anyway. Their quarterback. 12-5 is what I got. I still think the Bengals are going to be in the running for first round bye or number 1 seed in the NFL. If they go, they could get to 14, but I think 12-5 is reasonable playoff contention, and I expect this to be in the Super Bowl.
I do too, and again, we are not the only ones saying this. You have a lot of national media out there who usually, disregards the Cincinnati Bengals, but they even understand how good this roster is if it's healthy. If Joe Burrow is healthy, he is the best quarterback in the NFL. And that's why all the national media is on board with this. There is a lot of people out there picking the Bengals as the AFC favorites, and they should, because if this roster stays healthy, it is the best roster in the AFC, and it's not even really close if it stays healthy.
Yeah, I found this one statistic. The Bengals and the 49ers play the most 3 short week road games in the NFL.
Yes.
That's hard on your team. That causes injuries. That causes issues. We have some scheduling obstacles here that we have to fight. This roster is good enough to do that. 12-5, 13-4, very reasonable. Number 1 seed is in play.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if the key is this health, every team has injuries. I'm not going to use injuries as an excuse. If we keep our big 4 or 5 core players healthy, they play a majority of the season. Nothing, takes them away for the year. It's going to be hard to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. It really is.
It is 100%. 100%. Guys, make sure you throw in the comment section what you think the Bengals record is going to be this year. I'd love to hear from some of you guys. I agree, Mon, 100%. I think this team is set up for success. And I think the only people that can beat this team are the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they are that good of a roster. They just got to stay healthy, right? I mean, that's the key. Got to stay healthy through a whole season. This team went 9-8 last year. 9-8 with a bunch of backups. That's impressive. Eric, homer predictions. I like that. All right. I know what's coming here.
Listen, I can't put all my, I'm a homer that's never lived in Cincinnati. I'm a homer to the core. We can't have a season excitement show without me giving my homer predictions. Jake and Mon worry about a lot of the depth and worry about a lot of the little things. I'm more of a, it's not I'll believe it when I see it. It's more of I'll see it when I believe it. And I believe my predictions that I'm going to give you. They'll sound like homers, but this is what I'm manifestation. So let me get into it. Joseph Burrow, 5,777 yards, 58 touchdowns, 6 INTs, and only 12 sacks. Jamar Chase, 120 catches, 1,800 yards, 15
Ace
touchdowns.
Is killing me.
Yeah.
T. Higgins, 75 catches, 1,204 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Hendrickson, 33 tackles and 21 sacks. For our record, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. We are going 17 and Joe. Joe Burrow wins the MVP. Jamar Chase wins Offensive Player of the Year. And least but not last, the Bengals win the Super Bowl. And that is my homer prediction. And I'm going to die on that hill.
Eric, if that happens, I'm taking my shirt off. I'm running down my street, my underwear, and I'll live stream it. Okay.
Nobody wants to see it. Mon, we can't
let's get something better.
Listen, let's not try to lose viewership. Let's try.
Oh, we're not going to live stream that. That can be on his other, jitterbug phone.
I swear, I want to read. I'm not going to do it, but this text from Ace, man, almost peed my pants just now. That was the best.
Which one was it?
About you during a game, how and then you go. You have to go
that was
14
Jim.
and 3.
That was
Jim.
That's him.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Jim.
Jim's always trying to make jokes. He's always trying to make jokes. Okay. Listen. Listen. A frustrated Jake on game days is. I'm still very realistic.
He's blocked. He's blocked. that's the one benefit of being when we're in the stadium and you're in the stadium. We don't have that. We don't. Unfortunately, our seats aren't together, so we don't have to deal with for all those out there. Jake's a football coach, and football coaches have to be this way. They live and die on every single play. As a fan, I'm very big picture, as you can see from my homer predictions. I believe that no matter how many mistakes we make in a game, somehow we're going to win it. But Jake's very, if we give up a first down on 3rd and 4 and we give up 15 yards, you can almost see the canned responses. I think he has them pre-typed out. It's like, what's going on with this defense? Can we not stop the run?
I look at it. I look at it from a down to down. That's just how I do. I don't know what to tell you.
I already ordered a shirt for 2024.
Stop hating.
I ordered a shirt that says pathetic on it because I'm going to wear it. Jake's number one thing.
Are you trying to say? Listen, are you trying to say the defense was not pathetic last year, Mon?
It was pretty bad. Listen, I have my own meltdowns. I just do it in another language. Okay, it's all good.
And we do have to throw this in here. This will eventually turn into 20 and Joe. That's right. I didn't put that on the screen, but we'll have to say 20 and Joe.
I like that, Dax. That's good. I like that.
Mark up the shirts. I did copyright it a few months ago. So
listen, all joking aside, this team, guys, this team is set up this year to win a Super Bowl. It really is. I mean, all homer stuff out the window. If this team stays healthy, this is the best Bengals team, the best Bengals roster that we have seen in a very long time. And it really could match up with some of the best rosters that we have had. And I think the homer stuff aside, this team has a chance to do something very special this year. And I think all of those individual attributes that we just talked about, that we just predicted, all of those things will come into fruition if this team stays healthy.
I hope so. I hope you're right, man. I think the stars are aligning. This roster is good. It's very good.
Yeah.
I like what the PFF guys even said. I mean, starting 22 is top 5 in the NFL. I really think the starting 22 is that good. And we have some good depth pieces. Guys, I'm telling you, we all know this. Every teams need luck. Teams need luck. They need a little bit of luck. Zim's comment is killing me up here. I guess you see that, Eric?
I'm laughing at Aaron. I'm laughing at Aaron's comment.
Which one? The fake Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I tell you, man.
All right. I think it's time to get out of here. Listen,
hey, before we do that, we had for those that weren't around or didn't get to listen to it, we had a great interview with Elise Jesse a couple weeks ago. What we didn't know and what we didn't get to plug was just a few days after she was on the Pulse, she did start her own podcast. So for all of our listeners that enjoyed that interview, go give her a listen. She's just getting started out on the podcast. You can find it linked through her socials at Elise Jesse TV. I think it's on the Sick podcast. But it's good stuff. She had Drew Chrisman on there, and he had some fun content. So give it a look because it's good to have the Bengals Pulse kickstart that podcast career for the Emmy award-winning broadcaster.
Oh yeah,
yes,
we definitely did that. Yeah.
We did that. We did that. At least that was us. Hey, listen. Let's finish with the immortal words of Dan Horde. It's destiny. This season.
I still got that.
It's destiny that the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase are returning to New Orleans.
Perfect. Let's put it. I mean, this is our prediction show. Let's hear it from Dan Horde again.
Did they do what they needed to do this offseason to hopefully, Dan, all of us, Bengal Pulse, Dan Horde, Dave Lapham, the whole crew hanging out in New Orleans?
It's happening. They did enough, and it's happening. I mean, it was written in the stars. Burrow and Chase are going back to the Bayou, and I am going to become the first Bengals broadcaster to call a Super Bowl title. It's happening.
Yes.
It's happening this year.
I love it, Dan. I love it.
Listen,
and I'm not just hyping this up. I genuinely believe it. They went 9-8. basically with Joe Burrow playing 5 games last year.
That's right.
They addressed the weaknesses, if you want to use that term, that they had between free agency and the draft. This is one of the best teams in the NFL. And if Joe Burrow stays healthy, I'm knocking on wood, they are going to play for the Super Bowl title in the Superdome. Mark it down. See you on Bourbon Street.
Listen, we are going to be partying.
And if Joe,
I mean, we got to finish the show on Dan Horde. I mean, the GOAT himself. You heard it from the GOAT. And we lost Mon.
Oh, no.
All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. If you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you give us that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. Follow Mon on Twitter at @TheFireMon. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Jake Owens 9. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash with 2 H's 88. Follow the Cincinnati Podcast Network on Twitter at Cincinnati Pod. And as always, follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9. On Instagram, the same without the at Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, guys, check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Cincinnati Podcast Network. Eric, go ahead.
Before we get out of here, we will be doing our preview episode Thursday night at 7 o'clock. So make sure you tune into that. Mon and I will be here live. Jake will be coaching, but he's going to chime in and give us his opinions, and they will be on the show. So make sure you tune in Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Make sure you tune in Thursday. Guys, it's our preview show for the first game of the year. How awesome is that? Let's get out of here. He is Mon. He is Eric. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hoo day, Bengal fans. We'll see you on Thursday.